Unless this is the most elaborate April Fool's Day prank that isn't even taking place on April Fool's.
Hello and welcome to my Lego City. This is a project that I've been working on off and on since 2013.
One of my favorite things about buying bins of Lego at yard sales is how you get to celebrate the victory twice.
Today is a day that will long be remembered.
Good morning! Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Brick World. Oh, man, what a great intro.
This is the 501st Battle Pack, and it's beautiful. We're talking about the early years of YouTube. There was a lot of really bad quality videos, as you'd expect, because if YouTube came out in 2005, that was when you had to have a Google Plus account. And everyone knows that Google Plus was a terrible failure. So from 2006 to 2013, it was a lot of low quality and it was dominated by the stop motions. There were some people that were making layout videos of their Lego cities. There was a lot of time lapse of building sets. Before, it was common practice to build a set on a live stream. They were filming lots of stuff about trains. Some of the most popular videos used to be Lego train crashes. The stop motions is what really carried the early days. You had people like VDOS, JCOI, Michael Hickok's films, some of his really early 2009 work. That was really the most substantial video in those eras. 2013 really changed because that's when a lot of people in Lego YouTube really started getting onto other forms of social media, which is when Instagram was launched. So Lego and photography, they kind of go hand in hand. And Flickr was doing its thing, so people were bringing their photography side of Lego, and they thought, okay, why don't I give this YouTube thing a go? As Instagram kept on getting bigger, YouTube got bigger as well, and people were like, okay, the year was 2014, I've been doing this for about a year now, why don't I start doing this on YouTube? That was around the time that the Lego movie came out, and all of these AFOLs were like, hey, why don't I give this YouTube thing a go? And then reviews were very, very common in this time as well. Stop motions were still going decently, but they had kind of plateaued, and so you saw a lot more people doing reviews. Think about Jane Bricks, think about The Brick Show, think about The Brick Queen, think about Brickzar. And then the Lego movie comes out, everyone is gushing over the sets, they can't believe that Lego is in the box office, and that created its own era from 2014 to 2018. There were a lot more people doing more and more city updates. They were like, hey, I'm an AFOL, I have a lot of Lego, it's cool to do this now. And so you saw a lot of that, and that started growing from 2014 to 2018. And then YouTube changes their algorithm in October of 2016, where they wanted to be more focused on kids, which is ironic because of all the crap that happened with the Child Online Privacy Protection Act dramas of early 2020 before the Rona struck the world down. We thought that was going to be the biggest problem of 2020. Yeah, we were totally wrong about that. And so that kind of changed. Some people, they tried to adopt to that new algorithm, that completely failed. And then 2018 comes around with the adpocalypse, and a lot of Lego YouTubers just died because they weren't incentivized to do it anymore. And with all the algorithmic changes from the death of Google Plus to just before Copper, a lot of traditional reviewers and city update people and train people and stop motion people, they kind of just gave up because they weren't incentivized to do it anymore. And so I really think there's a lot of time intervals on Lego YouTube. You had the early years, which is, in my opinion, 2006 to 2010, which is really bad quality. Most of the generic types of stuff that you'd expect from the era. There were a lot of people just taking pictures of them and making a clip show. It was all on Windows Movie Maker, and anyone that's used Windows Movie Maker knows how bad that is. And that was pretty much what everyone was using. But then when Apple computers really stepped up their game around the time that the iPhone was getting popular, you saw more and more people using iMovie iMovie because they were buying Macs, because they were also buying iPhones, and iMovie changed the game forever in terms of editing. I still, to this day, use iMovie to edit all of my stuff, and people have adopted new editing software to match the better quality, and it just keeps on getting better and better and slowly away from the old days. As you see the technology improving, as you see the YouTube algorithm changing, as you see the trends in what people are doing differently in the year 2023 than what they were doing in 2018, from what they were doing in 2014, from what they were doing in 2009, there's less of an emphasis on reviews, there's more of an emphasis on news, there's less of an emphasis on train crashes, there's more of an emphasis on point of view shots from the trains, and you get hundreds of thousands of views if you people like dumpster bricks. But if you're in the old days and you really like the train crashes, think of people like Lego 9-Volt Train Fan, who has millions of views on his videos because that's what people wanted to see back in the days. And even back in the 2000s, train crash videos were really popular on YouTube because people wanted to see all that wild and crazy stuff that was very sloppily filmed. So as the technology gets better, there's more of a divide between the old and the new, and live streams were not all that common in the early days. The real old days, there was no such thing as a live stream, but the Lego's YouTube side was very slow to adopt the live streams when YouTube came out with them in the early 2010s. But when StreamYard and Streamlabs and Restream started getting really popular around 2019, that's when live streams just skyrocketed. We used to be hamstrung to stuff like Google Hangouts, and I remember talking to people on live streams, and I know them to this day. I'm not going to name their names because they know exactly who they are, who we remember hanging out, this was 7 years ago, on some random person stream, hanging out with their friends on Google Hangouts. Before we were doing all of this on StreamYard, before solo big shots were using Streamlabs, before these really obscure, non-standard people were using Restream, because Restream is clearly inferior to the former. And then when OBS started getting really popular, people were connecting that into their live streams and further away from the really sloppy Google Hangout styles live streams that was going on from 2013 to 2018. It was just really sloppy, and if anyone's ever seen a live stream from the era, you know how they were. So all of these different eras are tied to different users, and the users that I've thought about are indicative of their era, and there's a lot of other YouTubers which have crossed that era, like M&R Productions and Just Too Good, and I'm sure there's others in there as well who have been able to adapt with the changes of the YouTube algorithm and the trends, what's trendy to do in Lego, so they've transcended, and then other people have gotten really high off of the Mr. Beast format, like TD Builds or whatever his name is. I'm so old school, I don't even bother keeping tabs of all of this new stuff because I'm from 10 years ago. My YouTube channel is going to be 11 years old soon, and I was in high school when I was doing all of this YouTube stuff.
There was a time when I did think I knew who everyone was. Everyone, like literally almost anyone that made YouTube videos with Lego and Lego Star Wars, I would know at least who they are and probably be subscribed to them because I would just subscribe to everyone back then. Like that was a thing. Like you would know everyone knew everyone kind of deal, like small town. But that's changed. There's just way more people making content, and this doesn't just apply to YouTube. There are so many people on Instagram and TikTok and a few people on Twitch that like, you know, I've just never heard of, you know, and some of them have a substantial following, you know, so it's kind of crazy to me how many people are out there just doing this now. Not necessarily like what I'm doing where it's like reviews and news maybe, but just enjoying the hobby in their own way and making content about it and, you know, just having a good time doing what they're doing. And so in some ways, yes, it is very saturated, but I do also think there's always room for new people and new styles of content to come along. I think one of the big booms we've seen over the last year has been kind of the Mr. Beast style content, almost to a fault, or I'd really say to a fault. We're talking about like in my YouTube recommended sometimes, I'll see the same like I built a Clone Army video in 7 days, done 1,000 times, and all of the thumbnails will be identical. It's like none of these channels have an identity. And that's, I think, a big problem for these channels if this content style, or if that content style, you know, starts to die off. Like, I couldn't tell one apart from the other based on any thumbnail. It's more so an observation than me saying it's something that they should go and change or do something different for themselves. They should do what they think is best, and obviously it's working if it's getting views, right? But I also think that, like, you don't have an identity on your channel. Like, what sets you apart from someone else when you're just copying what everyone else is doing and doing it the exact same? Like, I don't know, it's this whole thing. But I don't think you can come along these days and not put in a reasonably good amount of effort, make reasonably nice thumbnails, and, you know, have a successful channel. I think it is really hard to do it the way that people used to do it, but that is just also how things work. You know, over time the quality rises, the expectations rise from viewers, and so things just have to be better. I hope all of that doesn't discourage new people from wanting to start. If you want to start a YouTube channel, if you want to start a TikTok and Instagram page talking about whatever it is with Lego, or really anything else, go out and do it. Like, there's always going to be that next person that comes along and does something a little bit different, something a little bit more entertaining, and that could be you. You just have to put in the effort to find out if it's going to be, you know?
And then 2018, so much has changed in the last 5 years, and it's just more and more of a divide from what's old and what's new. And if you go back and study videos from 10, 15 years ago, you start to analyze all that trends, and then people eventually write books about it, and people write blog posts about it. It just keeps getting more and more documented, and all of that information is out there if people ever wanted to research that and dive into the history on all of the changes in formats, what the styles are, what the trends are. And it's totally different from what it was in the humble beginnings of 2006 for most types of genres on YouTube, and Lego is no different.
Now, something I feel is important to mention is another way LEGO has adapted and drawn a connection between it and the internet is through memes. You could say this about some other franchises, but LEGO has a good blend of community memes that only people in the LEGO community would understand, and more general memes that anyone can understand. Memes are already a big thing on the internet, and now merging it with LEGO just helps keep it more mainstream than it probably would be otherwise. Just another example of LEGO being able to transcend time. Now, I personally haven't been around long enough to witness the beginnings of the LEGO community. It took until 2019 for me to make my YouTube channel and get fully invested in the community. I can, however, talk about my first experiences with the community. When I started my channel in 2019, I didn't realize just how big the LEGO community was, and how it was basically like a big family. Or at the time at least, it might be a little less nowadays with just how many people are doing it now. It was amazing talking to people who were into the same stuff I was, talking about the same sets, figures, different builds, and more. Even people you just meet, you feel like they're almost automatically your friend. You can basically automatically understand what they're talking about and join in, even if it's only to a small degree. Yes, that does just sound like any community, talking to people with the same interest as you, but I feel like the LEGO community has a bit more of a community aspect to it. It's more community driven, if you will. Now, I know what you must be thinking. How can I trust you when you're also part of the LEGO community? After all, a murderer would probably say that their murderer friends aren't that bad either. Okay, maybe not the best analogy, the LEGO community isn't that dangerous. Don't look too deep into that. Well, let's see what happens when we take a step outside of the LEGO community. Outside the brick, if you will.
What do I see in the LEGO community? It's a pretty difficult question to just answer outright, because the LEGO community has been a thing since I was born. I think Legos has been a thing like far before I was born. There were like LEGO nerds since like 1970 when Lego came out. It's just such a like a generational thing, so it's hard to define the Lego community with one word. But I guess today, I would say it's very persistent. Like when I was really young, I remember scrapping by as much as I could, and like I got the big Lego Death Star, the one everyone wanted, and I was just so happy. I was so excited. I spent like 3 days building it. I set up all the stuff on my bed, just built the entire thing. And I remember just like sleeping on a beanbag the whole time, going, yes, finally, I'm going to have the Death Star. I'm going to be the coolest kid in class. And the second I said I built the Death Star out of Legos, everyone knew what I meant. Every person knew what I meant, because it was just that big of a thing. It was just that universal. But like nowadays, I don't know, I don't think there's like a Lego Death Star nowadays. I don't think there's been like a big Lego thing everyone can put behind, except maybe the games. But even then, they weren't too popular.
Lego is an important part of the creator community. What I love about Lego is the fact that millions and millions of ideas inspired by thousands of people have designed infinite concepts over the last 20, 30 years. I mean, Lego allows people to take whatever lives in their minds and bring it to life in a way that's unique to every single individual and their particular inspiration. Lego is something that allows creators at a young age to realize their aspirations in engineering, in designing, in construction. It's something that all people of all ages can relate to. Whether you're a kid playing with your bricks, or you're an adult looking to design a protocol, looking to design a physical concept for something that you actually want to model. Ultimately, there's really no other brand in the world like Lego. I mean, if you think about it, there's nothing else like it, you know? It's Lego. It's Lego or nothing, you know?
What comes to my mind is I am not an active member of the Lego community. I recognize that there are people that really find joy in building with Legos and using it for creative purposes, and I think that it's something that I've seen people be able to grow and explore their creative side. I have family members that have really, it's really become a part of their life. And for me, you know, in my own personal life, as I mentioned, I don't really partake in the Lego community, but in thinking a little bit deeper, my son is very involved with Mega Bloks, and it's something that we use for his learning and development, and I could see that evolving into Legos when he gets older and he has more dexterity, and I will absolutely be supportive.
One thing I'm going to give Lego credit for is that it's one of those things that has something for every generation, at least like until we get really old, I'd say. Like, I may not be into normal Legos now. I may not like be excited by a Millennium Falcon or Death Star to build, but I am hyped as I don't think I can swear because it's a Lego video. Hyped as shenanigans for like Technic builds. Those are super cool. I went out of my way and bought like a whole pile of Technic Legos, and just building small circuits and seeing what I can do with them is super enjoyable. So, you know, big cools. Do like that quite a lot. And oh god, what are they? The Lego Great Ball contraption. Yeah, that is by far my favorite community of Lego builders. If I have to like describe all of my describe how I describe the Lego community, I would just spout out this link because it's so amazing what you can do. Like, I think about it as, oh, Legos, they're that small toy for children. No, they're this huge technical thing. Also, it's such a wide variety of things that you can do with them that you have to just like creativity to do like a whole Ferris wheel, but it transports a small little ping pong ball. It's super cool that although Legos were this thing that it reached a generational high point like years ago, there's this huge creative and passionate community around them that still persists today in like really fun forms too. Let's see. Obviously, there are going to be people who are like just grow out of Legos. I think that's just how it's going to be, honestly, because at the end of the day, there are people who are just going to view it as, oh, it's a building toy, which is true. It is a building toy, but they're not going to see it as, oh, it's a building toy, but you can have Technic, or it's a building toy, oh, but you won't be able to build your own stuff because instructions, blah, blah, blah. But people are just going to grow out of it because it's like very hype-based, I guess, because, yeah, sure, as much as I like Legos, I really like them for the technical aspect, and if I wanted to go into it, there are better things to get when I want to like display contraptions or moving things. Like I could just go out and get a electric motor and some spools or something, and that would probably be like cheaper and also more technical. But if I was someone who preferred like, oh, the building side of it, I could just like get a copy of Minecraft, which I think would be more entertaining than being playing with the same Legos for all that time. So it is the kind of thing where as you go up, you're going to specialize into what specific part of Legos you like. So that kind of makes sense as to why people would go out of it. But I think that it's the thing where it, at the end of the day, it's going to be timeless for some people. It is like your first experience with, oh my god, I can just build anything. I have a canvas in front of me, but it's three-dimensional. I can work on it. If I make a mistake, I can change it. I can make these huge spaceships, or this rowboat, or a statue, or a Lego Iron Man suit, in one very cool case.
So I'm not an active member in the Lego community, but I used to play with Legos a lot growing up. And I think what I've seen in the community, mostly from LegoHead, is just a really nice sort of collaborative effort amongst the people in the community. Obviously, Lego is a toy, but it's a toy that tests your mind, makes you come up with clever ways to build interesting things, or maybe you're following the directions to build some really cool Star Wars thing or whatever. And I love how it's a great way to bond, but it's also a great way to test your brains and work on really cool projects. I've seen people who even make, little rivers with actual flowing water with a Lego infrastructure. They, get some of those more like machines almost, where you have rotating parts and the Lego can do something. I mean, it's really impressive what a lot of young people have figured out how to make. I mean, Legos seem like a very simple sort of, you can only put blocks together in so many ways. Not the case. It's very impressive to see so many people come up with so many clever ideas and also helpful ideas. Maybe how to get Legos for less money, find them on the cheap. Maybe how to encourage people to not give up on trying to make a big project. I mean, that's really what Legos kind of are. They're like an engineering toy. And it's very cool to see how big it is on YouTube and how popular it's become, and I hope it keeps growing.
Yeah, it's going to definitely remain timeless for people, and that's a good thing. It's not like there would be better applications for it, because in that case, all you're doing is like engaging with that really cool community of people that'll help each other out, and so you can find these cool things. Like I was first introduced to your videos, I think, before I even met you. I was invested in the whole, oh my god, what's that thing on the case of that one Lego thing? When I was quite young, when it first came out, there was like a whole, what is it though? Because I was a huge fan of Star Wars, and that's like how I got into Legos, and that still stuck with me far longer than like my love for Star Wars has, just because it's one of those things where you can just go back to it. Oh, I'm bored once, I have this thing of Legos. It can be anything. And yeah, I think that's probably like my favorite aspect. It's just, no matter what's going to happen to the community, even if Lego just stops making Legos, it's going to remain strong because it's built off like an interest and a love and a passion for just creativity. It's all hyped around creativity. Yeah, sure, a lot of it's going to be like sentimental. A lot of it's going to be just, oh, it's the sentimental aspect is what it is. But there's obviously things that made that a foundation of it. There were obviously things that got you into it firstly. And yeah, it's just going to be something that I'm going to continue to go back to. Even when I'm 50, I think there's going to be one time when I'm just going to go, oh my, there's a Lego Death Star on the shelf. You see, younglings, I had to build that with my sheer hands, and I had to go online and print the booklet out to see how you build it, because I spilled water on mine, and like all that. I think it's just, it sparked something universal in people, is what I'm trying to say.
Personally, when I look at the LEGO community, I see creativity, ingenuity, community, and hope. I know it sounds crazy, but someone building LEGO today might someday build something out of LEGO or something else to help people as a whole. And to me, that's one of the many things that makes the LEGO community special. Though with that being said, no community is perfect, and the LEGO community is no exception. Now, since this is a video about the LEGO community and what makes it special, it's only fair that I talk about the things that make it, well, a little toxic. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm a huge fan of the LEGO community, my channel is part of it, and I'm making this video. But I would be lying if I said there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. Every community has its toxicity, and the LEGO community is no different. Like any community, there are people who will get mad at others just for having their own opinions about certain things like sets or minifigures. You'll see this happen to people like M&R Productions, where people will say he complains a lot and his complaints don't matter because LEGO's a kid's toy. And while it is a fact he complains a lot, he does have reasons and his opinion is valid. And there's nothing wrong with that. To hate something, you have to love it. There are also people who will try and pass certain things off as their own. You see this happen a lot with experienced mock builders. Remember a couple years ago I was watching a reaction video on YouTube and someone was looking at Reddit posts about cool LEGO builds and someone was trying to pass off a JK Brickworks build as their own. And recently there's been an influx of people stealing from LEGO factories to resell figures online. This happened with the LEGO Star Wars Captain Rex figure from the UCS vendor, where you'll see tons of them online, but they're not actually from the sets, they're from the factories. Honestly, the dark side of the LEGO community could be its own video. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on it, but I did just want to mention this. Now, I don't want you to think that because of this you should avoid or hate the LEGO community. Once again, you can find toxicity in any community. I just figured it was probably a necessary mention. Personally, I think usually the LEGO community can be a very supportive and understanding group despite some of its toxicity. And even with it, I think there is a way to help with that. As long as you acknowledge different people have different opinions, and that's okay as well. It's just okay to show other people's builds as long as you don't try and genuinely pass it off as your own. And please don't steal from factories. Then you'll be doing what you can to help. So basically just don't be a jerk. And then the LEGO community can truly become a community of support. Now, a lot of people say the magic of LEGO is building with the bricks, building sets, building your own stuff. Personally, I think the magic of LEGO is that the magic of LEGO is different for everyone. Everyone has their own way of enjoying LEGO. Some people like sets, some people like minifigures, some people specifically like Technic and others system. Some people mainly like castle, space, or train sets. Some people build mocks. Some people mainly build mocks rather than sets. Some people build huge mocks. Some people try and build the biggest army of a specific figure or even set that they can. Some people like collecting obscure LEGO products. I think you get the idea. The magic of LEGO isn't just one thing, it's everything. Everyone enjoys LEGO in their own way, and that is the true beauty of the LEGO community and LEGO as a whole.
Here's what I love about this one is, let's say you're kind of caught up, you got what you want, you have, there's nothing too much more pressing on your wanted list, like that ever happens, but
so you can see all the different stuff it does. So that goes up as well as down, and then this can rotate 360 degrees very slowly. It can also go up and down. This goes about 90 degrees down like that. This one in the front goes up and down, and this one also goes sideways, so you can do some nice little positional combos. I'm not really sure.
So this store is absolutely enormous. This is only like half of it. The other half goes way down there. It's neat because Legoland can't display Star Wars stuff, but clearly they can do it in their stores, and this would be classified as a store, so I guess they put some of that Star Wars stuff in there.
you got a little bit of a little Target 20, a little gifty in the pocket, Caleb, little quick little birthday card or whatever, 25, 50 bucks. Even if you don't, man, 130 seems very fair for this piece. Would I love to get it at 99? Sure, we all would.
Oh yeah,
but I think 130 is one of those ones where even if you went full price, Jones, little 5% off circle deal. I'm not feeling robbed in any form or fashion.
Now let's turn on all the motors and see how well I do.
Really glad to add the flowers and remove the snow from these trees.
And I'm gonna lower this a little bit. Close the chompers there. There we have our brick. Now we go back over to this side. I mean, one half is all the way on there, so I'd say that did pretty good.
I highly doubt the way everybody's going after army building, specifically in the medieval space. I mean, will this ever hit 90? Maybe, but I don't think it's going to need to. I think it's going to be a pretty steady seller.
He's under a lot of stress, but the ticking sound is much louder, and it appears that
works.
This is one of the oldest things in my collection of ships. This is what started it all. I started this back in 2014.
Lego Iron Man helmets. You love some, you hate some, and then some of them you just want to throw away and forget about them completely. Now, my favorite Iron Man minifigure with the helmet design will always be the Silver Centurion with the original molds. This thing is a piece of art. It has arm printing, leg printing, a new helmet mold. As in a new helmet mold, I mean new printing on the helmet. It is like, it's like you just got a piece of cake and you're gonna enjoy the cake forever. And this is that piece of cake.
And we got a fridge and a kitchen scene made by Roy. He helped me get all of the gray 1x2 curves for the submarine. Here we're getting into more of Mark's stuff with the trains. We got a little Luigi that someone had made at the Comic-Con that we were at last year. And this is our display of our rail that we have going on. It's not finished yet, but Hawaii's getting a train soon-ish.
In a world where people lose their creativity as they grow up, the LEGO community is a beacon of hope. Hope that creativity can be a part of you, no matter who you are. It also shows that we're all important, together. If there's one thing I want you to take away from this video, let it be this. Creativity can be a part of you, no matter your age, where you're from, or what you believe. We can all work together, learn and build off of one another, gain ideas, and get inspired by one another. Even with the flaws in the LEGO community, it's still a community of creativity, fun, and kindness, and I'm glad to be a part of it. And I think I can speak for most of the other members in the community that we all love being here, and we are all glad to be a part of it, together. You are the most talented, most interesting, and most extraordinary person in the universe, and you are capable of amazing things, because you are the special. And so am I. And that's what makes the LEGO community so important.
But like life, LEGO sometimes throws you curveballs, and it's how you respond to them that makes all the difference. And we're going to respond the best way we can and make the right moves here. I just got to figure out what those are.
Got some really sick Star Wars builds here. Moff Gideon's TIE Fighter, Sebulba's Pod Racer. It's the Resistance Troop Transport. That's sick.
Like a lot of old sets, it is really basic and kind of built up a lot using really large pieces and really large structures, but I think this set has a lot going for it.
Stay tuned for updates. Like I said, I'm really not taking suggestions for what to do here. There's no what I should do. It's just going to be what I do. And what I do, I will share. And you'll see it on videos and or you'll see it on my blog at jangbricks.com.
I finally got to meet Dave's Customs and signed his 501st Battle Pack. Another happy customer, free of charge. Do you want me to sign yours too? Yes. Of course. How are you? What's your name?
Hey everyone, Woodles here, and in this video, I'm going to take you on a short tour of my latest building, the Southern Villa. As you can see, it's very much a suburban house with 2 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, and a garage.
With almost 1,200 nights, Shy Time is My Time's Black Falcon Army stood out at Brickworld Chicago. This is Shy Time is My Time's massive army. Shy, why don't you walk us through what this army is all about?
Dang, dude, it just hit and it just bounced right off.
Lucas brought his Venator. This is what it looks like. It is disgustingly good. It is huge. He said you can turn it so you can like open and close this as you like. There's also a really awesome ATT Geonosis mock, but this Venator is like top build here at the convention.
Hey guys, welcome back to the 2015 edition of the Clone Army in 4K quality. Guys, this year I have Captain Rex designed by my own company, Minifigs for You, right in front of a clone army of 5 1,048 clone troopers. That is just an insanely massive amount of Lego clone troopers. It is the biggest I've ever seen in my life. And it couldn't have been done without your help.
Well, Lucas is working on his Venator. He just told me how sturdy it was and then the panel fell off, so that's great. But this thing's, he's hoping to win Best Star Wars Mock here.
You can see that Jen and her team is fighting against these guys. They kind of came from the water. Let's pretend there's another little island right here. This year, guys, not only is it huge, not only is it giant, but it is truly the Grand Army of the Republic. And man, is it massive.
I think we need 7. I don't know if they'll let us buy 7, but we're gonna walk up with 7 or 5, and then ask for more. It's done. Now I gotta film my review. It's nearly 11 p.m.
The entire mock looks great to me, and this is definitely the biggest mock I've ever made, and probably definitely the best by far.
2 years, guys. That's how long it took me to build this. 2 long years. I'm happy to say it's done. And for everybody who's gonna ask what's next, I don't know yet.
Well, my husband, George, was the biggest fan of Lego, and I disliked the brand because it stole my husband from me. My husband, Gloria, was the biggest fan of Legos until he had a heart attack. And for that, I will never forgive Lego for what they did. They took my loved one from me. And I don't know, my father, his husband's daughter, and my uncle's second dentist-in-law went to the Arlington office with my stenographer, Dave. His cousin Molly was the director of Lego Creations. My husband bought the Lego compartment stuck inside the 4th leg of the door. Inside the vehicle, his trunk bestowed a Lego project to me.